Oh hey, it's Wes, and we're back with another nerdy video about batteries, and this is the new ZGCine, or ZGCine, depending on where you're living, X99. You might remember the previous ZGCine, the V99, presumably V standing for V-mount. And we have a few upgrades and quality of life improvements here. Let's go over them. Number one, this X series has a 100 watt USB-C output, which is nice. Let's say you're plugging into a MacBook Pro and you want to get like the full boost and charge your battery. This is basically a whole other MacBook Pro. The previous one was limited to about 60 watts of USB-C output. And this one has the most powerful USB-C output on the side here, plus charge. And then on the top, we have another USB-C, which is 65 watts, 8.4 volt, 12 volt. We have our usual D-tap on the side here, as well as, of course, our V-mount mount. Whereas the old one, we had a USB-A, and a power delivery out, and power delivery in, which is a little confusing because you had to get right which port you were plugging into. Whereas this one, you only have to get the charge port right. And also the labels on this one were a little hard to read, and I think they've worn with time. Another change around back here, we have a 1/4-20 and a 3/8 slot, which means if you're powering your camera or dummy battery or whatever, anything that doesn't take the V-mount on the bottom, you can just screw this in and mount it on its own. You don't need a plate anymore. Another reason you don't need a plate is you have these DC outs on it, whereas the previous one just had the usual. The 12 volt out on here is rated for 36 watts, which is a lot of power and more than most 12 volt devices are going to be needing. Like a monitor or something is usually only like 8 to 15 watts. Also, on the front here, you have a much nicer screen. This screen tells you a lot of stuff. Let's plug something in here and have a look-see. There we go. Of course I'm plugging in the tiniest thing, 0.7 watts of charge. But you can plug in multiple things at a time, and this will just pound out the current way more than the old one. That's a lot of power handling. What happens if you plug in too much stuff? Well, it does get a thermal protection thing. I was not able to overheat it just by having stuff plugged into it. But if I was fast charging it at 100 watts and fast charging other things using this as well, I did get it to overheat and throttle/shut down. But that is a completely ridiculous use case. Why are you charging this while outputting power to something else? Just take this out of the middle if you already have a plug going on. But anyway, it does take a long time for that to happen though. I don't recommend trying it. I have had over 15 charge cycles into this, and I ran some tests. After all that, when I started, it was close to 95-99 watt hours. Now that I'm 15 charge cycles in, it's very broken in. It discharged 80 watt hours and charged 104 watt hours. There's always some losses. Usually it's 5 to 10% at the very least. So we can assume that the actual charge contained in here is about 92 watt hours now, which is a bit of a loss, but it's still decent. Not bad, not amazing. Lots of power in here, and it has been lasting and maintaining itself, and I love that screen that gives us tons of information on here that tells you exactly what you need to know, whereas the old one was just a percentage and nothing else. So this one lets you know exactly what's working at what voltage, whether or not it's making those handshakes. Quick note, it came with this USB-C cable, which has been falling apart. Like all the pieces have come off of it. And this cable is a 60 watt USB-C cable, not 100 watts, which is a bit of an odd choice on their part to include a cable that doesn't actually match the full specifications of this battery. Aside from that, a new USB-C cable that does 100 watts isn't that expensive, and if you want to plug your MacBook charger into this, easy peasy. So if you have any questions about the ZGCine X99, and there's also a 160 watt hour version as well, let me know down below. If you want to pick one up, there'll be a link down in the description. Until next time, let's go take some photos.